Good evening to everyone here, and a warm welcome to our next speaker, Vanessa Grellet, Head of Portfolio Growth at CoinFund.io. With over 2 decades of experience spanning strategy consulting, impact investing, and blockchain, Vanessa now works on supporting and guiding Web3 founders in their early stages. Vanessa will be talking about the DAO space, the DeFi space, the startup space for emerging crypto technology today. We're thrilled to have Vanessa amidst us. Vanessa, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, and really honored and thrilled to be with you guys tonight. I'm going to do a presentation about what I see in the space in terms of interesting opportunities. If you wanted to, create a startup in crypto at this stage, and where we are in the cycle. So I'll be talking about briefly layer one ecosystems, sector-specific opportunities, what we see in convergence of CeFi and DeFi, but also the emergence of NFTs, and also the latest trends DAOs. So right now, where we are with the layer one ecosystem, we have sort of the mother of ecosystems with Ethereum, with the largest developer base, and DeFi and NFTs burgeoning from that. And then we see all these amazing other ecosystems that have emerged on the sidelines, whether it's specific to NFTs, with Dapper, for example, and their Flow blockchain, Polkadot that focuses on interoperability, Solana, which focuses on high throughput and DeFi for mainstream users, Terra, that started off in Korea, that also focuses on DeFi and e-commerce, and then Near, which is a smart contract platform. There's also Cosmos that's been doing interesting things recently. And so, we invest across these ecosystems. And what's interesting is, we've seen Ethereum build a lot of applications, but now we see the other ecosystem sort of mirroring that trajectory and adding, DEXs and the same primitives in the other ecosystem. What's really exciting is that all these ecosystems are global and everyone can have access to as a developer or create dApps on these decentralized layer one ecosystem. So if you're thinking of building something, really think about your use case and which one is the most appropriate or has the most traction for your project. In terms of sectors where we're excited and where we see a lot of opportunities are, of course, the base one layers, and I think we'll see more of that. There was a lot of first wave of layer ones that came in, at the beginning in 2015, like EOS, etc. And now we see this second wave of layer ones that are really successful. And I think that will continue as the crypto sector evolves. There's, of course, the development of layer twos, which is really exciting for Ethereum, which allows you to trade with less fees. Polygon, for example, is a great example. And we see a lot of other solutions that are ramping up as Ethereum 2.0 is working. And we think in the future, there will still be a need for other layers. So it's not like if Ethereum 2.0, succeeds, there won't be any other scalability layers on top of that. The second theme is decentralized finance, with the key DeFi primitives like lending, derivatives, trading. And I think that's still a very exciting space for us. We think it's going to continue, and it's going to continue to grow in the different layer ones and ecosystems. And then, of course, this year, NFT gaming and platforms was really what took crypto to mainstream. So we're super excited about that. We invested in Rarible and Dapper. Projects like Axie and OpenSea have really gained traction. We invested in Shingari, for example, in India, and we really think that the future of blockchain and crypto will be driven by mainstream adoption and social media too. So really an important theme here that can be specific to one country, but that can also be global. The other thing, in the what we call the centralized exchange, asset management and exchanges are still, companies that are super interesting and are going to be the gateway for DeFi for a lot of the institutional investors. And I think we're starting to see people bridge the gap right now, especially with a lot of discussions and regulations. The next topic or sector I want to dive into, and maybe it's further ahead, but we think it's pretty exciting, is Web3. With companies like Filecoin, LivePeer, really decentralized technologies that are now also working with AI. So we think there's going to be a lot of those. But those are really, long-term investments from the teams and long-term visions. Then there's infrastructure and middleware. We've invested in a company called Blockdaemon, for example, and the Graph, which is also on this slide. But this infrastructure and middleware will really be the building blocks for the crypto economy. And so we think that's pretty excited. We also invested in another Indian company called Claystack that does liquid staking. So we really have a thesis there that this will help develop the blockchain ecosystem. And then lastly, there's payments. With companies like Cello, Circle, and we see that a lot of the governments are looking at CBDCs. And so we think there's going to be something there where everyone will have access to either decentralized protocols or other forms of payments based on blockchain. So in that vein, we really think there's a convergence of CeFi and DeFi that are coming, especially driven by regulation in the US. But we see that there's a need for really good user experience for people to access DeFi. And right now, DeFi is kind of limited to a restricted number of users who are sophisticated enough, to access those markets. And therefore, it doesn't deliver the mainstream promise of financial inclusion, for the broader audience. And so we think that this convergence of CeFi and DeFi will allow, through Web2 experience and the opportunity that large fintech or tech are going to seize with DeFi, where we think there's going to be a lot of action there in the future. So if you're thinking of setting up a company, there's ways to engage, clients in a more regulatory compliant way that also brings them in their comfort zone of the Web2 experience. Then we also see a trend on the convergence of NFTs and DeFi. We think the NFT space is really going to explode and go beyond what is traditionally seen as NFT categories, which is art and collectibles, and now maybe a little bit more gaming. But we think music, luxury goods, high-value goods like computer hardware or real estate and financial instruments can also, be an NFT category and will benefit from the convergence with DeFi. So you're already able to lend, your NFTs or your CryptoPunks, for example, in a platform called NFTFI. You can fractionalize your NFTs already, so you can create derivatives. And we think in the future, you'll be able to even create structured products once, the NFT market is large enough and has enough liquidity in order to move forward. And in order to have that liquidity, we need oracles, we need indices, we need price structure and price feeds that people can refer to. So we invest in a company called Upshot, which does price prediction for NFTs and is really focusing on sort of that infrastructure. So we think that's another big trend. And finally, sort of the most important trend that we see right now is DAOs, so decentralized autonomous organizations. And we put them in specific categories. So, DAOs usually don't have, any structure, but the first two that are the most structures, I would say, are the governance DAOs that we see to manage the large treasuries of the protocols, whether it's Aave or it's Uniswap or others. And sometimes as they decentralize, they are organized under a foundation. So those are the largest DAOs that hold a lot of treasury with the large blue chip projects and need sort of help and tooling also to thrive. The second category, and I'm not going in the order of the slide, is sort of the investment DAOs. So those are really people coming together, wanting to invest in a specific vertical or type of company. And so they come together and they do these investment DAOs, where they can be legal or tokenized, and it allows them to acquire assets. So Flamingo is one example. Shark DAO is involved in the Nouns DAO, and so there's a lot of things going on there, and it's more about bringing the community together to invest together. Then the third category is NFT DAOs, like Pleasers. So again, people coming together to acquire NFTs and then maybe fractionalize them after, and really engaging in the creative community and content creator community. And then we see another trend, which are the DAO pads like Juicebox or DAO House that really help spin up other DAOs. So a little bit like the infrastructure, which we think are pretty exciting. And then, of course, there's companies that focus on DAO infrastructure like Orca, Boardroom, or Moloch DAO, helping other DAOs create more organized ways of working together. So DAOs are really interesting right now because there's a lot of activity. And, instead of it being like the result of one project that then creates DAO and decentralized, the DAOs start organically, basically around a community, around a project, around an NFT, around a specific action that they want to take. We have like special purpose DAOs in my presentation because it's DAOs. We don't really know how to categorize them, but it could be fans of a specific singer that come around in DAOs and has like a fan-based DAO. So the message here for DAOs is that it's kind of limitless what they can do. Of course, it depends on your risk appetite. If there are some restrictions in your local jurisdiction to organize around DAOs, but we've seen some really spectacular community-driven activity there. And so I want to finish with that in this overview, but also wanted to talk about the power of community and how important it is when you build Web3 companies and when you're thinking about raising money and how you're thinking of doing that. the information of asymmetry around what's being built and what is accessible, and the tech, I think, is less now than it was in Web 2, because everything is available and open source, and so it's up to you to get the information and find creative ideas. But what's really exciting in Web3 is the openness of the communities, to welcome other members and to share. And so you should, as you're fundraising, but also as you're building your product, sometimes, teams are heads down building products, but it's really important that you put your community first, because they are going to be the next person that you recruit. I won't hide that there's a total lack of engineers availability, and so it's a struggle in the space. So you want to build a community that you can tap into, for hiring, for creating products on top of your protocol, if you're creating a protocol, or also collaborate with them. And so community is not marketing. It's really a different way of building open source. And so my recommendation is, if you're in a startup, and a Web3 startup, and you see that there's not enough focus on community, you should make sure that you're able to grow that community. And then you should also, get support from people and angels who have been in the space for a while, who can connect the dots and help you. I know there's geographic community, but also there's global community, and I think it's so powerful right now in Web3, in each ecosystem, right? Whether it's Solana or Ethereum or Cosmos, there's really something to say here, and to sort of honor in the space, to be successful in the space. Because at the end of the day, the developers are the ones at the stage we're in, are the ones that are using your product, testing your products, etc. If you're focusing on a project that is geared towards more sort of Web2 experience and customers, I think it's the same thing. It's just a different audience, but you should also have enthusiasts and people who can help you be successful in your projects. So with that being said, I'm happy to take any questions from the audience, whether on my presentation, or sort of what it takes to build Web3 communities and companies.
Hey Vanessa, I think we'll just wait for a minute or so. Thank you so much for the presentation. I think it was super cool. Thank you so much. I think it was super awesome. So we take a few minutes. We have a first question, by the way. So for beginners starting to develop the space that badly needs support, guidance, directions, what are the pointers that you can give? Basically, tips to connect with right people / communities.
Yeah, so I think COVID changed everything. So there's two things. There's your local community, and then there's the global community. So the good thing about COVID, unfortunately, is that and it was already in Web3, is that you're able to connect everywhere in the space. So, but in order to connect, you have to show up in the world. So what's important, I would say the first step is make sure that your social media, your feed is engaging, right? As an individual or a company. So that people, if you send me a message, I'll check who you are, and then I know, what you've done, what's your perspective, etc. So be very engaged on Twitter, on Discord if you're in a specific community, and you can even join DAOs without and just be part of the community and try to contribute, right? So the first step is show up in the world as who you are and show your, what you do and what your perspective is in your social media. Then, there's local meetups, there's local gatherings around each protocol. So try to find that and really be there if you're in a place where that activity happens. And then in order to join some communities or reach out to, specific leaders, etc., usually I would say people are really receptive. So if you ping them on Twitter, you share stuff, etc., usually they will answer. And if they don't answer themselves, maybe someone from their team will answer. So just mapping out, the type of decision makers that you want to reach out to is super important. And don't reach out to saying hi, reach out to saying, hey, I'm, a founder of this company. I would like your support or your perspective, and just try to build a relationship there. The third thing, and I know this is COVID time, so travel is difficult, and I know that some of our founders in India had issues traveling. So if you're able to go to conferences, developer conferences, I think that's a great way to engage with the community and have access to people, right? So those would be my tips, but I think the first one is the most important one, that you really develop your persona and your voice on social media in a world where we don't have time to connect in person.
This is great so far. And we have another question from a person called Anaga. So Anaga is asking, you mentioned that you don't get a community by marketing. As an individual trying to grow a Web3 community, what are the best practices on trying to grow?
Yeah. So marketing is part of it. Community engagement at the developer level is a different. I mean, usually it sits under marketing, but it's a specific activity, right? So there are several ways to do that, and it depends really on the maturity of your project. So let's say your pre-launch or your post-launch, it's not going to be the same thing, but how do you get people excited about your project, right? So you want them to contribute and you want them to reward them. So there's one thing that works really well is kind of ambassador programs, where people are incentivized to, write translations, create technical documents, contribute really to the project, and feel responsible for retweeting and spreading the word around your project. So this is what I mean by sort of the Web3 community growing. So you could do ambassador programs, and then of course you can incentivize them with tokens and things like that. And then there's once your product is live, like the incentivize people to build on your protocol or your project, or help build features of the project. And again, usually it's through the DAO, where you can remunerate people for doing specific tasks, but people should feel like proud of contributing to your project and really understand the where it's going. So that's where the marketing comes in, and really your narrative on social media, on your blog post, if you do AMAs on Twitter spaces or things like that. It's really like the founder or the founding team going out and spreading the words and making sure that people can read on it. They can understand your perspective and they can understand your roadmap, so that they feel comfortable that you're, that they're contributing to a great project.
All right. I think this. I hope that answers your question, Anika. Since we're running out of time, Anika answers that makes a lot of sense. Thanks. So we have one last question because we're running out of time. So we'll just take this. This is from Mukesh. So Mukesh is asking, what is the most critical aspect of building a tech startup in the Web3 space, tech or business wise?
So I would have the answer has changed over the years. I think the tech is the most important thing, but it depends what you're building, right? And what type of, if you're building a totally decentralized application, tech first. And then, but you need to build a community and have a, it needs to, if your protocol is not making money, it's not going to be successful, right? So some people think of business as like working with enterprise, working with consumers, etc. It's really thinking about the mindset of what does business wise mean engaging with the developer community, right? And if you're building like a more NFT focused app that engages content creators, then like the business side sort of takes over. But if the tech is not there, and if the teams are not iterating quickly and adding features, etc., you're not going to get there. So for me, it's tech first, but with the mindset of really understanding your bottom line and what drives your customers. And so you have to define your personas. You have to define who your audience is, who you're selling to, or who is using your platform in order to be successful and scale.
All right, this is absolutely amazing. I guess those are the questions that we have so far. And in case you have any other questions, feel free to drop them on our Discord channel. That would be super cool. So with that, we come to the end of our expert sessions for day two. And we really hope you had a lot of takeaways today, including this session. Thank you so much, Vanessa. I think this was absolutely enlightening for, I mean, everyone, personally, us as well. I think this was super cool. Um, so yeah, we're already at the end of day two, and tomorrow is the last day of the summit, and we have three sessions tomorrow. So we'll be posting the itinerary on the Discord server. So thank you all once again for tuning in. Please don't forget join our Discord server if you haven't already to engage with the community. And good night, everybody. Take care. Thank you so much. All right.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right.